What does it mean to be a musician? Is it the gifted person born with the ability to express themselves through sound? What is our fascination with music? What is it that draws us all in? The rhythmic beats or the emotional connection? We want to introduce you to some of the members in Central Illinois' music scene by giving these musicians, recording engineers, venue owners, promoters, and everyone else involved a chance to voice their opinion on their respected craft. Nothing gives us more pleasure than showing off their talent, their passion, and their dedication. In this documentary, think about the questions being asked. What would you say? What would you do? How can we come together and build up our community? How can we come together as one to show our talent and passion to the world? These interviews show us that people of any age, any race, and any religion can all be connected through music. What do you love about music?
Ever since I was little, I just loved music, and I would, my parents kind of make fun of me because I would walk around our backyard and like sing into the fence post. And, you know, I just always loved singing, and I got a guitar whenever I was 21 with the intention of writing songs. I guess I had a lot to say, or, you know.
I've been playing music all my life since I was 15 years old. Started playing guitar at 14, got in my first band at 15, and I've been in a band ever since in some way, shape, or form.
I was pissed off. I did a lot of drugs and alcohol, and I was mad at the world, and drums seemed like the perfect thing to do.
When I think really, really hard about it, the first thing that really made me want to be a musician was a Hanson tour DVD back in like probably, oh man, it was probably, what, 96, 95, 96, something like that. And it was just a tour documentary on VHS of these young kids touring the world, and that just kind of imprinted in my mind, you know, that if these kids can do it, you know, why can't I, kind of thing.
It's a way of life. It's the only way I know how to live as a human being. I've been doing it for so long that this is literally all I know, I think, at this point, and I'll probably never stop doing it. As mad as I get at it sometimes, it's just how it is. It runs through my blood, and I've had people tell me that before, and like, you know, I couldn't live without it. I don't know what I would do with myself, honestly. I don't know what other project I would be, you know, indulged in at that moment. It's the only thing I know.
Music was always kind of around in the house. You know, my dad had a big vinyl collection and everything, and I always remember there being music being played in the house. That's kind of what happened. And then, you know, I kind of went through and did all the sports things that you think boys should be doing at that age, and never really clicked. And then finally it just kind of came down to maybe I should try this music thing out.
My dad played drums, and I thought it was a really cool thing, so it kind of taught me how to hold sticks and stuff when I was really young, and so I just kind of evolved from there and just have enjoyed it ever since.
I really just couldn't find myself, I guess, at a time, and I found like heavy music, and it just kind of spoke to me, and, you know, it made me who I am today, I guess. I don't know. It's weird. It's just, it's hard to explain that aspect of it. Like when you're in a band and you want to do that, like people don't understand it. They're like, so wait, how much money do you make? I'm like, none. None. Why do you do it? Because I'd like to. I don't know. I have no answer.
We had a really cool local venue here called Wake the Dead, and it really impacted me a lot whenever I was young, and I got to see some of my first shows there whenever I was 13, 14. My mom would take me and drop me off at the front door, and be worried about me the whole time, essentially. But I mean, I loved every second of it, and I basically have that place to blame for what made me want to become a local musician, or just, you know, live this lifestyle that I'm living now.
I got taught my first song on piano at probably 4 or 5 years old, so I was raised around it on both sides of the family. Not a lot of performing musicians, but people that were active in church music. My mom was a piano player. Had a grandfather on my dad's side that I never met him, but I had heard he played about anything that he could ever get his hands on. I took piano lessons, played sax in school, started taking guitar while I was in junior high. My high school was playing guitar with the youth choir at church. And never really got in a performing band until I moved to Decatur and went to Millikan, and then landed in a fraternity full of musicians, so it kind of all went out from there.
I remember when I was young listening to the radio and not liking the music I was hearing because it was making me feel things that I didn't understand when we were real young. And then as I grew older, I understood that was actually trying to connect with me. And I gave into it and connected with it.
For me, it was the more cathartic aspect of music. Life is so full of shit on a daily basis. It's easy to get beat down, and you know, people, I think, well, some people anyway, try to find that thing that will just make you feel better inside as a person. And music was definitely just that outlet to let out all that aggression, all that negativity, and in a positive form, if you will. So
I had a hobby and an emptiness in my heart, and music filled it. And the more I listened to and the more underground I went to find it, the more quality life it brought me. So I basically turned my hobby into a business overnight, and success measured by how it affected me as a human being, and I wanted to do that for other people.
I wasn't into sports and out playing ball and shit when I was a kid. And, you know, I just put the speakers to my ear in my bedroom when I was, I don't know, probably, God, ever since I can remember, trying to mimic all my favorite singers. And so I just done that when everybody else was out playing baseball and basketball and football and all that stuff. And I just love music. And I met this really goofy guy when I was 15. No, I'm just kidding. It was Ben, of course. And he played guitar, and you played guitar, and I wanted to sing, and that's, you know, I obviously got into it with you when we was young, and it was cool, man, and it just seemed to be right, and that's all I was passionate about after that.
The movie Blues Brothers.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, well, I didn't even know how to play, but I was like, I want to do that. Like, it just, to me, it was just, I don't know, it's just, I got lucky in the fact that I just knew I wanted to do it. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't even know what I wanted to play. But music, for some reason, like when I was a kid, before I could talk, I could work the record player. And that was just my whole life, it's just music. I just loved everything about it. So yeah, that was it, man. It just, and then different instruments came with different times, but yeah, I saw that movie and I was like, I want to drive around, I want to play gigs, I want to do all that music. And that was it, man.
My older brother, Chris, he loved music. He was listening to like a lot of the 70s and 80s stuff when I was a kid. He was way into Zeppelin and The Doors, and then on later into Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and Metallica and stuff like that. And he played drums, and as soon as he got a drum set, my next thing was I have to be his guitar player, you know?
I can't exactly remember what got me into music. I just remember finding cassette tapes. I was born in 81, so probably 89, 90 cassette tapes with my parents. They were partying all the time. They were listening to Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, Iron Maiden, that type of stuff. So that kind of, you know, that's the reason why I got turned on to those bands.
My brother.
Okay.
Yeah, because he played guitar and he was amazing. You know, I was a little squirt. I was about 8 years old when he got his first guitar, but by the time I was 11 or 12, and it was really cool, and MTV was starting to take hold and everyone was really paying attention, you know, to the whole 80s rock scene, my friends could come over and I'd be like, hey, look at my brother, you know, and be like, hey, Ben, play this and play that. And then I'd look to my friends and be like, hey, ask him to play something, you know, and see what, you know, and he could do anything. So he was kind of like a musical hero.
Okay, so how did you get into music?
I think I was probably about anywhere from 7 to 9 years old, and I was watching MTV. I saw a certain band come on called by the name of Van Halen, and I saw this crazy looking guitar. This dude was just wailing on it. Supposedly his name was Eddie Van Halen, and no, it was just ever since then, my mom, she knew that I took an interest into it, and she bought me one of those Strat packs, a little like $200 ones, comes with the amplifier, the case and everything, and just started learning. I just never wanted to stop up until this day.
My sister, when I was itty bitty, gave me a cassette tape as the Stand By Me soundtrack. Old school, yeah. And on it they had is Jerry Lee Lewis doing Great Balls of Fire, and I love the way the piano sounded. I mean, I was probably like 6 or 7 or something like that. I just played over and over and over. Wish I could find that tape, but I don't know where it's at.
It was a weird dream. I grew up in Mount Zion, a swing station. Always loved singing. Really loved to sing harmonies. You couldn't carry a guitar in your suitcase. I was working on the road a lot, so I picked up a guitar, and you know, after about 1.5 years of playing it every day, I realized I could kind of play the guitar, and started singing, and I kind of really started writing immediately, original stuff. And I just kind of went from there.
I've always loved singing since I was little, and just kind of hearing some of the musical influences that I have, those really kind of shaped me into who I was, and that really affected me growing up. So I figured a lot of the music that I like, the singers are all dead now. So I'm like, if I can't see them, then why not try and kind of emulate what they had?
When I was a kid, because I'm 45 years old, there was 3 channels on TV, and my mother hated TV, and all we listened to was records, and my father owned a bar that had music in it 6 nights a week, and I think that I just kind of naturally got into music because I thought it was a normal thing.
I started listening to Korn. Korn really is like the one thing that kind of came along, and I grew up on Aerosmith. I grew up on Def Leppard. You know, those are 2 of my early influences. You know, my aunt kind of drew me onto that. She was a huge country fan, but her vinyl's up in the room. Those are the 2 I picked out. Fleetwood Mac occasionally. And then it kind of led to just me picking my own things, and I decided to kind of reside with Korn and Marilyn Manson. And I was like, I'm going to start my own band. So I started my own band in high school, and that's where I kind of decided like I was going to leave the football dream behind, and this is what I was going to do, because I kind of felt like when I got up there and I did it for the first time, like I had a way with it.
Once I got into junior high, there's something about metal that just clicked. I started listening to Metallica, started watching Headbangers Ball, saw the, caught some videos from Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, Death Angel, some of the bands that have still influenced me today. Something clicked, and I determined I wanted to play it.
I was always kind of loved music, and like I was a karaoke singer for 10 years, and I would enter like the karaoke contests and shit, and it turned out to be a popularity contest. So I was like, I'm just gonna start a band where I could get paid every weekend instead of getting paid once a year for some bullshit contest.
I started out on sax and played a little guitar and some of those kinds of things before I really honed in on drumming, which was the thing. But for me, it's like you have all the stress of life, your work, just school, whatever it is that you're doing. That's like your escape. You can really let your mind go and just do your thing.
As far as back as I can remember, what really pushed me into it
is probably just my family. I'd seen them play for so long, and I wondered if I had what it takes, and I tried it out and started to fall in even more love with it rather than just being a listener. And I'd have to give it up to just growing up with my Aunt Cece. I looked up to her a lot, as well as Chris Hawkins, who is a bassist here at Capitol Fence. So shout out to you guys. A lot of love.
Man, I always loved music, like from when I was a kid, but I really started going out and seeing like local shows, you know, like Pork Chop Shifter, Splat, you know, Disgruntled, a bunch of Decatur bands that really got me turned on to you know, the local scene. Mudvayne was from here and shit. Like, there was a scene, you know, and this guy really made me realize that, you know, I could do this, you know what I'm saying? I could play music.
I play guitar, so I'm gonna throw that right the fuck out the window. I did it because I wanted a piece of ass, and I figured, hey, playing guitar, that's gonna do it.
Probably early on it was something more shallow. It was probably an attention-getting thing, a way to fit in socially, or it was a way to put yourself into a social scene that you wanted to be a part of, you know, that maybe you weren't, so that people would look at you a certain way. You know, I think it's safe to say that. But at this point in my life, it's definitely an empathy machine for me. You know, I mean, it's a way for all of us to sort of relate to each other, you know, and to learn things and to, I just think it's really, really important. At least that's what I'd like to get out of it. That's what I'd like to deliver more than anything. And that falls more into the film scoring side of things, I guess, for me. You know, when I think in terms of being able to deliver the empathy of the characters on film, you know, I want to help push that message along.
For me, it's a coping mechanism for any type of emotion. I mean, all the different genres I listen to, all the different artists, it's kind of always saved my life in a way.
Okay. I agree with what he said. I like how it brings people together. Like, you can have the most country-looking person who secretly likes metal, and like that'll bring a metalhead and a country boy together in some form.
It's the expression. You know, every band's got their own little twist, their own little twang, and I like to see people express themselves. And music to me is probably the best way. You know, if you're talented in that field, I'm not. But I enjoy watching people express themselves and really showing their hearts, whether it's screaming or singing or, you know, hitting the drums as hard as you can or carrying a beat, whatever it is. That I've always been fascinated with that, the ability to express yourself in that manner. Music to me is so underrated, and that word is so overrated, because it's a feeling. It's an emotion, it's a state of being, it's a vibration you can't duplicate, and it hits you personally. And when most things do hit us personally as people, naturally we want to share it. So, you know, I love to play myself, you know, and I like all sorts of kinds of different music. Lyrics hit me hardest, but the intro hits me quickest.
It's a release. It's most definitely it's an art form, but it's a way to just step outside yourself and just let it all go. And, you know, like I said, I like all kinds of music, so it's very fulfilling depending on my mood, on what I want to listen to and what I feel like I want to just step away from and just relax to. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's my biggest thing. I just have a connection with music myself that I just feel like I wouldn't be complete without it, really.
As far as performing goes, I always loved the idea of going to concerts, and it didn't matter what problems you had in your life, like bills, girlfriend, boyfriend, parents, whatever. Like, for, you know, the hours that you're at the show, you're not thinking about any of it. You know, you're just enjoying yourself. You're having a good time. And so I love being able to do that. Hopefully I do that for some people. And just, it's expression, you know, and people like me that don't know how to express themselves in other ways, you know, It gives us an outlet to express either in our own songs or even cover songs, you know, finding the right ones to say whatever it is you want to say.
Kind of get your mind off of the day-to-day stuff we all have beaten down on us. It's just a good release, and you know, I've been fortunate enough over the years to be in a position to make a little extra spending money at it. Of course, if you compare the cost of the guitar habit that we all have, do we really come out ahead in the end? Right. It's a lot of fun. If it wasn't any fun, I wouldn't do it.
I think if you were to take the world, there's only like two things. Any other, like if a species came down from another fucking planet, they can only relate to us probably in math and music. Everything else is pretty much like these guys are fucking idiots. So.
For me, it's being able to take any kind of raw emotion and really put it into something new and mold it into something. A perfect example is like Van Gogh taking all of his torments and turning them into these beautiful pictures, and kind of doing the same with our music, taking all these things that we've been through and molding them into these, you know, half-ass productions of us.
Just that you can capture so much of your feelings through a song, or like if you're really pissed off, you can write something really angry, or if you're really sad, you can show that through your music.
Music's great. I mean, it's an art thing. I'm a kind of an artsy person, you know, and I can't draw, so I'm kind of limited to you know, music, and I went to school for film for a little while and things like that. So more of those things. It's just kind of having an outlet more than anything. It's constructive. It's something to do that's not just sitting around, or you know. And like I said, I was never really into sports, so it was kind of, I had to have something to do to keep my mind busy.
I really wasn't into music as a kid. It kind of all came together whenever I was like 12, 13, you know, trying to figure out who you are as a person in general. And then I discovered this style of music that I'd never heard. I grew up on a farm. Like, I heard Waylon Jennings regularly, which I like Waylon, but like it was like Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks, shit like that, like regularly. I'd never heard like hard rock, heavy metal, anything like that. And it just kind of spoke to me whenever I heard it the first time, and I was like, oh, this might be what I've been looking for in this time of my life, and it's just stuck for me.
Absolutely. You mentioned like the whole fitting in thing. To me, it was kind of the opposite. It was kind of you can be an individual, and I think heavy metal has always been kind of the outsider kind of genre of music, if you will. So
mine was definitely trying to fit in with you and your brother and our group that we formed.
Sure.
But it still spoke to me in one way or another.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. But the idea of just being an individual, standing out from the crowd, is something that's always kind of appealed to me.
Well, what's your biggest concern with the music industry?
I'm not familiar with a lot of younger people's stuff, to be honest with you, you know, and I'm okay with that, but I think from what I see in my generation, it's starting to deplete a little bit, and I think, I don't know, there's just so many other genres of music that aren't like what we do now. You know, there's just not a lot of real instrumentation and stuff going on that it makes it difficult to really appreciate that sort of thing, I think.
Growing up, you know, a major label deal, that was the dream, that was the goal. And now I wouldn't take a major label deal. There's no way I would take a major label deal. With 360 deals and all this stuff that they're trying to do these days, plus major labels. I mean, even whenever we got signed, there's no such thing as artist development. You know, back in the 70s, you know, a band could release 3 or 4 albums and the label believed in them. They were developing them, and it may take 3 to 4 records, or maybe, you know, 2 to 4 records, however many, to break a band. And the label would stay behind that band. Today, it's, even in 2002 when we got signed, it was here today, gone today.
You can't make money selling your own music anymore. You know, it's tough to do. I still to this day, regrettably at times, but probably hard-headedly more than anything, we're still not on iTunes, you know, because I'm that cranky old bastard that doesn't want to give in, you know. What's sad, I think, is that we have lost the aspect of a great album. When you can put 8, 10, 12 songs together and people would sit and listen to them.
I don't know how much of an industry there is, you know, the way that it used to be. The music industry changed a lot in the last 10 to 20 years, and they don't have, I don't think the industry as a whole, the way that we used to describe the industry, has as much power as it used to. They used to control everything. And now, you know, you can put your own stuff out on the internet. You know, you can build a following yourself without all their money. So it's kind of, I think it's kind of in limbo right now. I don't think any of us really know where it's going to go or what it's going to do.
Well, currently, I feel it's too heavily reliant on social media. I feel like that plays way too big of a role in today's society. I mean, think about back when like the Allman Brothers were starting. I mean, they didn't have Instagram and Facebook, like come to our show or at these Facebook events, like let us know if you're coming. And I remember going to all these workshops where they're like, it's just not really being authentic. It was creating an image for yourself. You know what I mean? Not really being yourself, but creating some entity that you would live by as supposedly yourself. And I feel like it's just not really about the songs or the music or like the meaning behind it anymore. It's more about what's the money or like what's the most lit beat or something, you know what I mean? I feel like music with actual substance doesn't have as big of an impact as it should anymore.
My biggest concern really is how oversaturated everything is. I mean, you can go anywhere in the world and find so many bands doing the same thing, and it's so hard to find which ones are good.
I heavily agree on that. Huge, heavy saturation on every spectrum of the genre. And what sucks about that entirety is that it mainly has to do with money on like the bigwigs up top. It's always what's trending, and it pushes other bands that are giving it them all to make them what they are.
So I think there's just like a growing issue of people like, oh dude, I could like make a pop record with 4 chords, every song on it be 4 chords, the same 4 even, and like it just, I don't know, it just gets so like lame and cookie cutter, I think.
I would say the biggest, this not to like contradict him kind of, but like I'd say the biggest problem is like closed-mindedness maybe from like people, because like, I mean, everybody's gonna change their sound a little bit, and
sound evolves.
Yes, yeah, I mean, you can't make the same album 6 times in a row and expect people to still like it, I guess.
I'm not really worried about it. People that tell you the industry's in trouble are hearing that shit from the record executives. And that's why they think it's in trouble, because their pockets aren't getting lined as much.
I like that.
There ain't no fucking trouble. We're just learning how to do this shit ourselves because the internet and shit's making it easier.
To be honest with you, I think the corporations are contributing too much to pop music, to music where the people go out and perform songs that they haven't written. They're giving too much money, too much time to people who are just not genuine with music. They would rather go out and look pretty rather than give 100% into what they're doing. If they truly believed what they were doing, they'd write their own music, go out, put 100% like we do. We go out, we sweat, we struggle, we play shows, we try to sell merchandise, we write our own material, we take the time to record it, we fund our own stuff, our own tours, our own shows, we pay for our own gear. We go out, we're out trying to do, what we can and can barely just get by with the industry.
I was just thinking about this today, and I think my biggest concern is I don't mind streaming and all that stuff. I like it. I think that it's interesting, you would get a royalty every time your song's played rather than just paid, 99 cents, actually 69 cents for it when somebody buys it. But if you're going to it's like you're almost giving it away sometimes. And if you're going to give it away, I think the concern I have is like, it's not free to make the music.
Most of the bands I listen to, a lot of them are DIY bands. I mean, they tour on their own, they record on their own. They don't piggyback on a record label because the record labels don't care anymore. It's all about the bottom dollar, and the money's just not there anymore. With streaming services and downloads and everything like that, you can make money off of streaming services, but let's put it this way, for one stream on Spotify, it is 0.002 cents. So for 100 streams, you still haven't made $1. Someone's listened to your song for 100 times and you still haven't made $1.
I don't think the artists have as much control as they should have over their own music, over their own careers. They certainly are not making any money off of being recorded and the recording selling. The only way, even at a top level, that you're making any money now is touring and merchandising. It's a shame because for years, there were lots of talented people that made a good living because they wrote songs and people bought their albums. Yes, I said albums, and then it was cassette tapes, then it was CDs. Now in the digital world, somebody makes money, but it's probably not the artist.
What we've seen personally is kids, they come out, they don't care, they don't want to buy your record, they want to buy your t-shirt, they want to look like they've been to the show, but they don't want the music. It seems like.
So when we were young, it was about music. I think now it's about fashion, and then the later thing about that is that you might get cooler as you get older and get into something that you represented when you were younger and not really understand why you were doing it, whereas we understood exactly why we were into music and what we were trying to get out of it was, exactly what we needed, I guess, at the time. But the concerns about the music industry, I think on this level, we have no concerns about the music industry because we are from our brains to our hands. We just play music because that's what we naturally need to do.
There's a lot of real greedy people out there who are also real worried about getting screwed over because they have been in the past. I think that things have been over exploited, over commercialized, and if you're not one of the top part of the big wigs, then everybody else just screw you.
Not enough people really know about it or into it, because a lot of times I'll go to a show, whether I'm performing or not, or just going, and the crowd is so small.
So not enough people.
There's not enough people coming. I'm afraid, I'm not afraid it's going to die out necessarily, but I'm afraid it's just not going to get enough love, because there's a lot of love to share in the music scene.
Real simply, to me, it's devaluation. It's the fact that it's just that, it's devaluation. No one really feels like they should have to pay for it anymore, and it devalues every single stage of the way. If you can stream on however many different free streaming services or go to YouTube and watch things there for free, it's really sad, because where you used to have an industry that would support artists to do what I feel is some of the most important things in life. It serves all of us. It's part of our culture. It's part of our humanity to have that. And then for us to just turn around and say, well, that's not worth anything monetarily, and we can't support people to, do that as a living, we all suffer because of it.
I just want it to go back to musicians, there's so many producers, you see who wins Grammys and who's selling stuff, and there's 20 writers on a song, and there's, 3 different producers, and there's all this stuff, and I'm like, what about the guy who, initially wrote the song? I want to hear what that guy's song sounds like, not processed through all the, digital stuff's cool and everything's used as a tool, and if it's used as a tool, I'm a big fan of all the effects and all that stuff. I think that stuff's great used as a tool and not, hey, we can, polish a turd. you know, by throwing some Pro Tools and some auto-tune on it and all that kinds of stuff, man. I like raw talent people.
It's like the Wild West. Like there is no like real format of how it should work, or you know, I mean, like when the whole Napster thing happened, you know, you had artists that didn't like it, and it's understandable because it's like, okay, for some of them that's how they make their money, you know, but it exposed a lot of the crooked ends of the industry, and it's slowly starting to change. You know, it's definitely become more competitive than it ever has been. You know, just trying to shop your stuff around, and with the internet, that just opened everything up, because now instead of having 100 bands from an area, you've got 1,000.
Well, I mean, I think it's like everything else. Right now, what drives it is ticket sales, which is really driven by product sales. I mean, it's a big advertising thing. The endorsement deals are those are the bands that are getting on the radio. Those are the bands that are selling out concerts, because obviously they're getting the most in advertising. And really what they're doing is hawking a product, you know. Even your arenas nowadays are owned and sponsored by, you know, a phone company.
The major labels, like the few that are still there, are pretty much controlling what people listen to because of the radio plays.
Mm-hmm.
So pop country, stuff like that, like music with substance and soul isn't getting put out there as much. Like in the 90s, there was a lot of good bands, in my opinion, that were good bands that were getting, that was their time, you know, in the 90s. In the 80s, like, but rock's been kind of put on the back burner. And maybe I'm being biased, but some of the songs that get 300 million views on YouTube are just ridiculous, in my opinion.
I think it's getting further away from the music these days, in a lot of the sense. And what I mean by that is there's more technical stuff involved. There's more computerized and digital stuff going on. Really, that's my biggest thing that I think's going wrong with it. Music is not as much music anymore as it is kind of prefabricated, you know. I would say that's my biggest thing. I mean, there's still some really good music out there, obviously, especially live music. I mean, that's what I support the most. But live music with players and musicians is what I love the most, you know. So
it's the same thing for the past 20 years. I think it's everything's kind of, the industry dictates what people listen to. You know, with enough money, you can force people to like whatever they like. And that's not to say there isn't great music being made out there, because there's a ton. There's probably more now than ever. It's not out in front of us. How, you know, probably the last huge band we had was probably Nirvana, you know, as far as culture changing band. And that wasn't due to the industry. That was due to just cultural impact of them alone, and some people taking some risks. The industry is more about trying to duplicate that rather than trying to kind of find that natural growth elsewhere. You know, they're trying to create it in their own labs rather than finding it naturally.
I tell you what it is, goddamn Nazis.
I can't really get serious about that. Over the years, it used to be the labels. The labels aren't so involved anymore, and if the labels do get involved, they're not interested in you. They're interested about making a buck, which takes from your art. And even the record labels now, you've got the internet and you got all that now. I think there's better ways of trying to present yourself, especially if you want to keep your art and be in an underground scene and do your music your way. With the internet, you got a better chance of doing that and being true to yourself by doing that. I've always, no offense, hated record labels. I wouldn't know. I've never been on one, but I've never heard any good fucking stories about it, so.
How has social media affected the music scene?
I think it's a necessary evil, unfortunately. I think people are desensitized anyway, and we subliminally shut off our filters or turn them on. You and I were discussing, before earlier about making an impression, standing apart, being different. And sadly, it's like we all are sheep anyway.
Well, the power is that you can reach someone right here. You can you have direct access to people now. It's when you put a post on Facebook or Instagram, it's going to their pockets. Whereas you don't have to like go track them down. I mean, so the power is amazing. On top of just not only promotion, but being I got lucky. I worked in a record store, but if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have access to all that music because we didn't have the internet. So, I mean, the fact that a musician can just, what song is that, and listen to it, or what's that chord progression, or what are the lyrics? Like, in the old days, you would have to like buy an album. If your band wanted to learn a song, you had to buy the album for the one song, or go to the library, or try to find a friend who can get it, or maybe get off the radio.
It's huge because social media lets you get to know an artist as a person. If somebody is not just promoting an event, but they're actually telling you like, here, I'm not working out today, or I'm having fucking chicken today, or shit like that. You see them as a person. So you relate to them as a friend instead of an artist. Now, when it comes to like piracy and shit like that, a lot of people are more likely to pirate music from people that they don't really fucking know. But if you're with this person on social media, living life through their eyes, that's your buddy. You're gonna support your friend. So you ain't gonna pirate their shit. You're gonna fucking give them $10 for their fucking album.
I don't think I'd be where I am without putting money into my business on social media. So I think it's more of an advantage until it gets into other lying things. Like if you're trying to, get yourself out there, yes. But if you're just trying to, not do it and just like, share something once a day, whatever have you, that's not going to have you build clientele or build bands to come in and play at your spot. So really, in all majority, I think it's a huge advantage as well as a disadvantage because, I mean, like you were saying, not really a lot of people go out and put flyers up anymore. Not a lot of people go door to door, hey, check out my band, it's always on the internet. But why not do both?
Well, from a photographer standpoint, I think it's a great platform just so I can get feedback on my photos and such. But it does take a little bit out of the personal aspect of like handing out flyers or doing other things. But I think what Chris is trying to do, like with handing out flyers and like actually inviting people to things, like it shows that he's really passionate about what he does. And I think we need more promoters like Chris.
It's positive and it's negative. It's positive because it reaches a broader audience, I think, in a faster rate. However, those people are just sitting at their houses looking on their computers at whatever's going on promotional-wise. Back in the day, before there was internet, and I remember it just like you do, we were out passing out flyers. We were everywhere hanging them up. We were doing things physically and putting in the work. You know what I mean? And nowadays, it's a little different. So those same people that are sitting at their computers, it's kind of hard to get them away from those computers. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know, it's much different, obviously, but times are always changing. Once again, times are always changing, and you have to learn to adapt to those things.
Definitely pros and cons to that. I mean, the DIY aspect, I think that, and there's so many avenues, social media and stuff like that. To me, I think the cons of that are there's just a zillion bands and artists. It's just saturated. There's so many. And it's hard, even as a music lover and listener, it's hard to even kind of weed through it all to find newer stuff sometimes that you like, or that I like anyway.
I think social media is a good idea if you do it the right way. If you're using it to promote your band, promote the music, people are coming out to the shows, I think it's a good idea. However, I think if you're trying to use it as a competition against the bands that's out there doing the same thing you are, can't stand it. If you're just out there posting petty shit on there, can't stand it. Won't want anything to do with it.
The internet's great because you can reach more people. More people are guaranteed to see that. The downside is people get desensitized to what they see on the internet. It's kind of look at this, buy this on everything, and it's no different for, I think, bands. You have a bunch of events popping up in your Facebook messages and all that kind of stuff. You kind of like, man, there's so much of it, and it's kind of hard to keep on top of. So I think it's kind of going back to maybe a more tangible form of grabbing people. When they see a flyer, they're more likely to stop and look at it than maybe a Facebook event. And everybody's a little bit different. I go through both, but I'm in that world. That's the world I live in. But getting the layman to kind of get eyes and comprehend what they're looking at, that's something that I think we're all trying to figure out.
It's had a massive impact in a good way. Basically what it's done now is it's given us playing in bands the ability to market and promote to people who might not even know that something like this exists in Decatur. They might be friends with someone who listens to a band, and that person, they'll share an event page, and so that in turn that person sees it, and I think it's a wonderful tool for business and marketing and music.
You can do so many things through Facebook and Instagram and all that. They have this live thing now where, we've utilized that multiple times. We're probably even going to utilize it tonight, where we're going to live stream our show, and you can just outreach to so many different people. And it's also really helped with touring as well, just because whenever you go on tour, you meet people, and you can, instead of exchanging phone numbers or anything more personal than that, you can just exchange Facebook profiles. And we're a totally DIY band, and through Facebook we've booked 3 tours all through just social media.
I have a love-hate relationship when it comes to social media. It's a great way to get your music out, and it's so much easier than ever before to let people hear your music and get it on all these substantial platforms such as iTunes or Spotify. You can make yourself look very, very professional, and you can get the word out about your shows, but at the same time, when is it too much? You know what I mean?
You can look at it from the angle of, well, wow, now you have access to all of these people to help promote, your product or your band or whatever. So that's really cool. Obviously, you can reach a huge audience that you never could before. But at the same time, that audience, their attention is so diluted amongst the entire planet now, the World Wide Web. So what does it really mean?
There's definitely a lot of positives in the aspect of how many bands there are out there and how easily accessible they are now because of social media. But
it's also made promoters lazy as fuck.
Kewan has a point. Promoters have gotten lazy as fuck.
Say who that was that just ran his mouth.
Mr. Kewan Hughes, our guitar player for Grades Divide.
Resident guitar player.
Yeah.
I said it. Social media has made promoters lazy as fuck.
Kewan's very filterless most of the time, but that's fine. Everybody needs one. Everybody needs a Kewan. Everybody needs a Kewan.
That's why I'm not doing the
But I mean, there's the saturation thing is definitely very, very true. There's so many bands out there now that you can just find at the click of a button. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing, because there's so many awful bands out there. There's so much pure talent that you can find. You just have to look for it.
I feel like we've kind of become lazy in many regards. So
definitely.
I mean, and honestly, we're probably guilty of it too. We could probably do a better job of just solid legwork of getting out, passing out flyers, face to face with the fans and people who might be coming to shows, and being like, yo, check it out.
We used to have to go out and hand flyers out and put them in somebody's hand, and go talk to venue owners in person and make a lot of phone calls and stuff. And I think the way it is now, because everything's internet, it's all online, there's not as much of a personal connection between bands or artists, venues, club owners or whatever. That's just not the same either, And because of that, it's less personal now, and so you don't have I can remember being good friends with people who own clubs and stuff. They would call you, and it's like you knew them. And a lot of that's gone now too. Yeah. Because of the internet.
It's definitely a lot easier for people to get their music and all that out there. So somebody from the other side of the country can hear about your band just because it's on the internet.
There's a lot of bands that I've discovered and come to love very deeply to my heart that I discovered through social media, like where it's like just a random YouTube mix and a different band would pop up and I'm like, okay, I'll listen to it and fall in love with them.
I think it has helped a little bit more than it has hurt, but not by much. Again, with that oversaturation, though, there is more possibilities of trafficking for bands and artists alike, just being able to promote their stuff a lot better instead of just word of mouth and like posters, which don't really do a whole lot now, considering everything is done through Facebook, Instagram, and just social media in general. So it definitely helps give traffic to those bands who deserve it and do marketing really well.
We live in a digital world now. You've got to be in it or you're going to be overlooked. And there's so many smaller independent artists now. I've even got a third cousin who's doing some stuff down in Nashville that the way he's doing it now, 10, 15 years ago, he would have never stood a chance. He'd have been playing on a street corner with his guitar case open in front of him. And now he's recorded and got people seeing his Roots Americana stuff all over the place because of YouTube and because of digital media.
Even when Facebook started, it was cool, but when they figured it out, when I started running a venue, I'm like thinking like, oh, it'll be no big deal. I'll just book some shows. I'll have all my friends and my staff members just max out their invites. It'll be all good, right? Was I mistaken? Facebook has it to, this mathematic T to where they've got everybody trunked. To where in order for me to get you to see what I want you to see on Facebook, unless you're a person who completely follows everything that I do, I got to pay money to do it. And running a venue made me see that. So here I am, I'm running a show right now. It's a $5 local show. You know what I mean? I didn't make any band sell tickets to do it. Show's doing all right. You know what I mean? For a 685 cat venue, it's doing terrible. But for a local show in Northwest Indiana, based on what I've had recently, it's doing great.
I've had conversations with publicists and different, very small label people, and just to kind of get advice and, feel around, what am I doing? Where should I go? What should I do? And most of them, they don't care about your talent or your music. They care about what you look like, how many followers you have, how many people are retweeting you and liking you. And it's I don't know, kind of going back to the time that it takes. You could have a whole full-time job doing social media, and then where would the music fit in? So I think I can see where really talented bands and musicians just kind of give up, maybe.
People are fickle, so someone puts a great video out, they do something, they do the time, they do the recording, they throw it on, a media site, random medium sites like Reverb or Reverb Nation, and Facebook, or just anything to try and attract it. And it's amazing how many people will just go right past it. And you think because you put it on there, everybody's going to look at it and you're going to be like, well, hell, now here it is for free. All you got to do is click. Well, the kids that are looking at this stuff half the time don't want to click too, and so building your own following, like I said, bare bones, first of all, do the work, media or not. You can make yourself whatever you want on media. You can say you're as big as you are. You can fill a room full of people and make the video. You can digitally put them there and make it like you've been around for 20 years. Right. It doesn't matter if you don't build it yourself before you ever shoot it and send it off to Webville. It may or may not, but I don't think it's really helping you that much. But the distribution aspect of it's in your pocket at this point.
Anytime I share an event page, only X amount of if I share the event in a post, only X amount of people are allowed to see it based on the way Facebook has their algorithms set up. But if you include it in the comments section as opposed to in the main post, then it's more people can see it because it's kind of going under the radar a little bit. So some of that stuff kind of sucks. I mean, and there's more of that now. It's getting to the point where really you kind of almost need to pay for sponsored content more often. But I still think overall, it's still like way more helpful than it ever was, than it ever will be not helpful. I mean, yeah, it's everything's all in one place, which is kind of nice.
I feel like the technology that we have today, opposed to 30 years ago, allows us to be more independent and less dependent on record labels and executives and whatnot. We can do all this stuff ourselves, and pretty much as good, if not better, sometimes than these companies, and we're not out as much scratch.
I think it's good and bad. I think that it's easy to live in this like fairy tale where you're not really doing the work, but you come across like you are, you know, and I think sometimes it's hard to decipher between the real deal and who's just like really kind of putting on a front.
Yeah, you got 1,300 Facebook friends, but you got 3 real friends.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know?
What is good about the modern music industry?
DIY. It's gone back to that punk rock thing, man. It's gone back to the hardcore DIY scene of the DIY scene of the 80s. You know, you had all the Black Flags, and they were touring in buses and everything else, and putting out their own CDs on their own and everything. We've gone back to that, especially now with the internet. It's kind of a give and take kind of thing where, you know, we've got the SoundClouds and the YouTube and all that stuff. We can do it all on our own, which is great. And we can all make records in our bedrooms now, and that's also great. But it's also, now everybody can make a record in their bedroom. So you have a saturation of music and people doing it on their own, which is a great thing. But at the same time, you know, the good stuff's gonna kind of swim to the top, I feel.
I think it's awesome. I think it's great. Well, you know, I mean, it's good and bad. Of course, there's, you know, because you don't have as much support from, say, like the bigger labels and things, you know, or not necessarily support, but because you don't have, they don't commit as much as they used to. That's one thing. So you may not have as much backing if somebody does pick you up, but I think that it's cool that a lot of groups are out doing all this stuff on their own, and then are able to, on their own, get these, you know, big followings and, you know, go play big shows and basically do everything the labels used to do by themselves. And that's happening all over the place. And I think that's cool. I like that.
I mean, the good thing is you have no one to answer to but yourself and your fellow band members. I mean, you're all responsible for what you're doing.
You're calling the shots.
You're calling the shots. You fuck up and it's on you. You forget to ship something out that someone ordered online. That's on you. You forget to order something in time to get enough merch for the run. That's on you. There's no one else to blame. So that's a positive and a negative in my eyes, because it holds the artist accountable versus, you know, well, it's not my fault, the label fucked up. But at the same time, you have a lot more freedom to do whatever the fuck you want. You've got no one to answer to for, oh, well, this album art isn't PC enough for us. You know, this is a little too extreme. Granted, I mean, we don't have gorecore album art, whatever, you know, but in that aspect, you gives you the freedom to do what you want and present what your product as an artist the way you want to present it.
As far as what we do for the camp, it's the full rock star experience. They learn their songs. Some of the bands write their songs. We drill them. We teach them how to rehearse. You don't get to, you learn that the hard way, you know, sucking and like, it's not working. They record. They do a photo shoot. They make up their own band names, and then we have someone, they help actually the designer like design the shirts. They give them ideas for what it's supposed to look like. So at the end of their show, we sit them down on a long table, and they sign their autographs and they sell their merch. It's kind of like everything we can get them. And we do talks from everything from promotion, careers in music. We had Milliken come and talk about, if you went to music school, here are your options. So we just try to give them as much as possible so they can kind of decide, you know, what they like. You know, we'll give them, every musician we have is always different. And we kind of go, here's what we do. You can pick what you like, or take something from everybody, hopefully.
But I love the fact that people are able to do it on their own. You can make records on your own these days. There are, as you know, you can buy some gear, set it up in your house. You don't have to go to $1,000 a day studio to make a record. I mean, back whenever we were coming up in in the 90s and stuff like that, playing in bands and stuff and doing demos and everything, you'd go to a studio and it cost a little bit of money to make it happen. And I've made demos in my house that sound better than those. Of course, it's taken a while for me to get used to that sort of thing, but it's possible to make records on your own, get in a van, sell merch, book tours and shows. I love that. I think it's great. I think that, because it's not for everybody. And to get in a van and to do that, it's kind of a young man's game, but I give it up to anybody who's out there actively trying to do their thing and get their name out there.
I do everything I can for myself, or anything that YouTube will teach me how to do. YouTube's fantastic. And if not, I probably know somebody who knows how to do it, and I'll try to throw them some money or whatever, help them out, and they help me out. It's been great for getting to know people and that you wouldn't know otherwise, if you weren't out in the scene, because there's so many people that play music that have different day jobs and different things where they've learned how to do so much that it's really helpful.
You see more do-it-yourselfers out there just really pumping it, and internet's made everybody's stuff so accessible, and recording is so much more user-friendly and possible than it was. Used to be you had to go pile up in some guy's studio at their house, and which we still do because we're not, savvy enough with the tech world to do it ourselves. But we would if we could. But we're working with a wonderful engineer right now, and so I'm thankful for that. And my tangents just roll off to no abound. But honestly, it's just as far as the whole making it thing, it's changed a lot in my eyes. Of course, I've never made it, so I don't really know how it goes. But so there's that.
When we say DIY, it's no help from an outside party at all. That's from our art design. Obviously, we use a designer, but everything from like Lewis said, reaching out to people personally about a show, setting up, promo shoots, literally everything that we do. Up until recently, actually, we just signed a little PR deal. So we have some help on that front now, but that's just everything, literally everything we do. All the energy that goes into it is created by us,
Why I respect them a lot. I mean, they go out there doing the same things we're doing, but they're not giving up on the industry. They love to play. They're going to do whatever they can to get out and play, whether they're actually making it or not. They put their heart and soul into it. If they have to pay for their own gas to get to a show, pay for their own merch to try to sell it out to people who enjoy their music, who want to, support them, I respect them a lot. They're in the same business as we are.
I think it's important to know how to run the business and know how to promote and book your own shows and do all that. And I think DIY is it's exciting because you can forge ahead, and sometimes maybe the music industry right now, they don't know what's going on,
All right, guys, how can we improve the local music scene?
Convincing people to actually show up at shows.
People don't want to get out and go out.
I mean, the thing about it is people expect to go out, get drunk, listen to fucking Nickelback, slam 30 Bud Lights, go home and fuck somebody. That's really how it goes around here. It's not really so much that they support original acts.
It's always been that way. The original music scene has always suffered.
You have to have some sort of theme or incentive or something to get people to play a show where they're, it's different everywhere. Don't get me wrong. You could go to Chicago and you have these, I hate calling them elitist. I hate using that word because it kind of objectifies people and it gives people the wrong impression. But people have their cliques. If you establish the right clique in a music scene, whether you're in a city or a small town, you will create a really healthy music scene. Where I'm at right now, it's very parasitic. You have your deathcore bands, your punk bands, your rock bands. You know, everybody's different, and nobody wants to work together like they did 10 years ago. And I honestly feel like that is a huge problem in 90% of the music scenes across the nation.
I think if people in this town would stop saying the words, there's nothing to do in Decatur, and actually look and realize that there's so much to do and there's so much local music that you can support. And there are these people who they make a living off of that, you know, and that's what they do. And if you go out and see them just having all of that support and playing bigger venues and, you know, like the Decatur Celebration, you have to pay to get into it this year. And I know a lot of people are upset about that, but that's going to support everybody. That's going to support the town too. So I think just we need more support from the community, because there are a lot of people that come out to shows, but the more, the better.
There is no easy fix. You got to promote, but you also got to support. Go out and see your local artists. We're out seeing a couple bands right now that aren't really playing at the Celebration. They're in a fucking bar inside the Celebration. But I want to see these guys because they're fucking doing it. They're pounding the fucking pavement. It's a contact sport. Music is a contact sport. The more people you contact, either playing in front of, or hey, can we play? Hey, can we play? Hey, check this demo out. Hey, blah, 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 blah. That's it. But on the same count, the venues need to take that risk. Every time they hire a band, it's a gamble. Am I going to make back what I'm paying this band? So that, yeah, they need to be willing to take that fucking risk. Don't rely on fucking video poker machines all the time to bring in your goddamn crowd. People want to be entertained, and not just by fucking Netflix and chill. They want to be fucking have a show in their face. And the show comes from the bands. Don't just get up there and play your fucking songs looking all sad and shit. Get in their fucking face and have a fucking party.
I think bands need to learn how to promote better and more. Again, back in the day, we worked our asses off to make that happen. You know, like we really went out on the streets and passed out flyers at the mall and did this, that, and the other. And a lot of people nowadays, like, again, they just sit at home. So, and even if they're sitting at home, even some of those guys, they're not promoting and doing the things the way they should be. You can't count on someone else, a promoter or a venue or something like that, to do the footwork for you. You know, like if you want to do something, you're going to make it happen, and you're going to put the footwork in yourself. And, you know, I feel like bands are ill-promoted nowadays on their own part, and they kind of almost depend on other people.
Yeah. Why don't people come to shows? That's the question. What has changed to where people just don't come out and support local original music? Not even just metal. People will go pay a $10 cover to see a cover band play songs that they can hear on the radio, but they won't come and see a band play their original music that they've put their heart and soul into. Like I said, just in general, any genre of music, I see it everywhere.
What can people do? Work together. Venues need to promote their shows more, not put out a post in an event post and expect everybody else to do it. If they want people to come to their venue, then they need to promote their venue. They need to promote their shows more. Every one of those artists needs to be promoting. The headliners too, not just once and think they're good. Well, they got there because of the people under them that are promoting. They got there because they sold you tickets. In my opinion, if I were a venue owner, I'm sorry, but I would want to guarantee a place for them to stay. They would have at least 2 cases of water on the house. Their stuff would be locked up. They would be treated great. And they would be made to give love to every opening act on that stage. And all their stage stuff and their merch not shoved in a corner. Go over there, buy their stuff. They have new stuff. You haven't even heard it yet. Working together. Everybody said, oh, we won't ever forget where we came from. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Not much is working well right now. My reason for saying that is there's very few venues that are having live entertainment. And I'm going to say live entertainment and also include DJs, because they're even getting shut out in some of the places that they were in. There's been some stuff going around Facebook in the last 24 to 48 hours about how venues and entertainers need to cooperate and whose responsibility is it to promote. It's both sides' responsibility to promote. The venue wants the artist to bring in people. The artist wants the venue to help bring in people. And if neither side does anything, you're going to have an empty room full of people. The band's not going to get booked back, or the DJ's not going to get booked back. And the next person that comes along is going to have a harder time getting in the door because somebody dropped the ball ahead of you.
We fell in love with music was at an all ages venue, and a lot of people look at that and say like, oh, it wouldn't be successful here, yada yada, it doesn't have the traffic, but it totally does. Like, I think what a lot of people overlook is that like Milliken is here, that's a full art school, you know what I mean? It's something about Decatur just breeds artists, and especially musicians, and good ones too. And unfortunately, a lot of kids don't get even noticed here at all.
Trying to bring the original music scene back as it progresses, if it gets better and better here yet again, people will want to get back out of the house again and go out and see these new bands play. We've seen a few bands in town that people are starting to understand that, you know, something's coming a little, I mean, it's kind of coming back. You're seeing more people get out again, so.
I think the coolest thing with our local scene is we all kind of look to help each other out. You know, there's some scenes out there that I think everybody kind of looks to almost kind of sabotage one another. You know, everybody's trying to be the best band they can be and undermine everybody else. And I don't think there's any of that here necessarily. We're all, you know, hey, if you talk to this venue, are they, you know, they cool to deal with? You know, are they willing to work with us and all that? So we're all kind of looking out for one another. The downside is we're running out of venues. You know, people can be entertained at home now. It takes, you know, you can go to the store, get a 12-pack, and go home and watch Netflix, and you're good for the entire evening. You know, back, you know, 20 years ago, when the internet wasn't what it was, you know, you kind of had to find your own entertainment. And so people would go out, they'd see bands. And, you know, I always hear about the 80s and the 90s where you could go out and play every night of the week and make a living playing music. You know, those days are long, long gone.
I'll say the things that could stand to be improved would probably just venues in general, but especially venues for original music. You know, I'm not playing cover bands, so you know, I have options, I guess, in that regard. But as far as original music, you know, that's why back in the later '90s, the Hall of Justice, you know, the place that we put together was because there was no place for bands like ours to play at that time. You know, it was a total DIY. You know, it was a garage essentially that became a pretty cool thing. A lot of great bands passed through there, and it was a great community. In that regard, because there were just a lack of venues and opportunities for original bands, which, you know, when you're dealing with you know, I won't say small town, but you know, a town like Decatur that is very cover band dominated, even that has kind of dwindled down a little bit, it seems. Just in general, I think the venues, the amount of bands. At one time, I think there was a healthy dose of bands. And as far as around here, I think even within, you know, cover bands and original bands, I think there is a sense of camaraderie that I've always felt. There might be exceptions to that here and there, probably always will be, but I always felt like there's a sense of camaraderie. I know that whenever we were in different, you know, you're in Endless, you know, V-Shape, we had the same practice place at one time, and you know, we played shows together. We put on shows like at the Lincoln Theater and stuff like that, and so I think there's always been a good sense of camaraderie and looking out for other people and being friends with other people.
Right now, I think the good thing about the local music scene is that I see a lot of original music coming back. And years ago, as you know, there was original music everywhere around here, and you know, in our local music scene, there was all kinds of original music, and that was a big thing for a long time. And there were places that those original groups could go play. There was a crowd for it. There was a scene for it, and that really went away for a long time. And I see it coming back slowly now. I think that's good. That's my favorite thing about it right now.
There's definitely a very good sense of like family and belonging in the music scene. Like, everybody's included. It's a very, I don't know, it's a very like loving environment. Like, there's venues here in town, such as Doulos here in Decatur, Illinois, where people can just all get together and like just really feel included. So if anything, like whether these artists are making money or whatever, they're still bringing love and getting a good time going for everyone.
There's definitely a lot of support amongst bands, and especially here in Decatur. You know, no band is really on top of another. Like they may be, growing bigger than another band, but that band that's smaller is still giving them a lot of support and love and wanting them to go further. And same with like the band that's really big, wanting that smaller band to get bigger and bigger as they go along. So there's definitely a lot of support.
There's usually a lot of support from other local musicians. Like there doesn't seem to be a competitive atmosphere in this area, at least right now. I've gone to some areas where there are, but here in Decatur and Springfield and Champaign, for sure, like everybody's very sharing. Hey, we book here. Call this place. Talk to this person. You need some flyers made here. Talk to this person. You're looking for gear. Hey, I know. They're all very sharing. They promote each other's shows. If you're not going to make it to our show, make it to some show. Just support local music, and that's a great thing, because I know a lot of people like to treat it like a competition. Like, we got to be better. There's plenty to go around, man. We're all trying to do the same thing,
Hopefully get some of these bands to think that it's not a competition. All of us work together. Whether it's finding a venue like this place here that's been trying to help do stuff for bands, or try to establish someplace else. Everybody work together on something and establish someplace to play, places to record. Everybody get together and group together. Stop treating it as a competition. We're not in competition with each other. When you got to get up and go to work Monday morning and work your 40-hour-a-week job, to pay for your band, it's not a competition.
Well, here in Central Illinois, Decatur especially, there really wasn't much. I'm not like trying to be prideful or anything of this place, but you can always go play at a bar if you wanted to. But to have a place that's just about the music, and it's not about bringing people into your bar or bringing people to sell whatever, like we was talking before back in the day when there was 2 or 3 places here in Decatur. I think the Decatur area was a little bit dormant. I don't want to say dead, but dormant, because the bands are still here. But I believe that it's starting to come back and full force.
The further we get into society and as the future goes, it's kind of being a musician is kind of almost like a look down upon thing in a certain way. It's a lot of people doubt you, and we really need to connect with younger kids and make sure that people keep on doing this to help art for the future. And I think that's really important, and that's why we need more all ages venues. So for both of us, that's the biggest downfall right now. Is we would just like to play more all ages shows, and it's hard right now.
Metal doesn't make money, number one. Even some of your bigger national acts, they're not making money. They're still sitting at home, basically making as much money as I do working my ass off 60 hours a week, but they're still just living in their normal houses with their normal family. And you know what I mean? Like, it's not a prosperous genre for the most part. You really have to break through in metal. And so going into it, you have to kind of expect that and just know it to start. You can't expect anything glorious out of it. You're doing it for fun. And really, in the end, like music in general, if you're going to start it, period, it's because you love it. Not because you're trying to make money or because you're trying to make it big or anything. It's because you really do enjoy playing it. And you feel it in your body and your soul. And you need a way to release it, and that's how you do it.
What advice would you give new musicians?
Do it. Do it. And even if you suck, do it again. You're going to change the name of your band probably 15 times. You're going to get mad at each other. You're going to break guitars. You're going to break drumsticks, but do it. Just keep doing it. Because if you make it about expressing yourself and what you're doing, what you got going on, and not about just playing for people, but playing for yourself, it'll happen. It'll happen.
Do it because you love music. Don't do it because you think you're going to get anything out of it. Do it because you enjoy the art and you enjoy performing and you enjoy hanging out with your buddies and enjoy performing music. Don't do it because you think you're going to make a living out of it. Some of us are lucky to do it. It's hard. I have to do 1,000,001 things, and still, even then, part of that's still retail. But I like to think music's kind of the way I do it.
No. No. If it's something that you're passionate about, if you feel it in your bones that you have to get that out, do it. Do anything and everything in your power to make it work. That's what we try to do like I said, on a weekly basis. I mean, we're constantly looking for shows, looking for the next step and how to manage that with our personal lives. It's a balancing act, and it's not easy. But if it's what you truly in your heart know that that's what you want to do and that's how you feel, do it. Don't let anything stop you.
You're gonna have a lot of family members probably tell you don't do that. Mentors, teachers, etc. Like,
my dad
don't waste your time with that shit. But
my dad to this day will still be like, whenever I just hear his voice change whenever he tells someone that I'm in a band. like I just hear it. I can just hear it. He's in a band. Thanks, Dad.
Just work. Work at your craft, become the absolute best that you can. And that seems obvious and cliche, but it's so important. And I'd say also find a fine balance of doing it in a way that you love it. I mean, no one wants to just sit there and hammer on scales all day. You should find the things that drive you to love it, that makes you do it on your own. And then at the same time, constantly reach outside of your own comfort zone, and don't get locked into one genre. Try to be very zen and open to the whole musical world.
Be honest. Recordings don't make you bad. You make you bad.
Yeah.
If you record something and you think you got screwed on the recording, if you might not like how it's recorded, but you can, and not just guitar players, but any genuinely talented, good musician, you can go get your grandmother's little tape recorder from the 70s, and granted, if it still works, bring it downstairs and hit record, and you're going to hear the quality or lack of what you're doing right there when you hit play back. It's not going to sound as good or as crisp or as made to be perfection, but you'll definitely hear your abilities. So don't get caught up in I'm good, my recording sucks. No, it's not that.
Love it, have fun with it, enjoy it. Because if you're not having fun doing it, don't do it. It's hard to find people that are like-minded, that have the same goals. You're never going to find people that you're 100% on the same page with. That's just nature. That's just the how things work. But as far as hone your craft, really put in the work. With my guitar students, that's what I tell them. I say there's no magic potion. There's no secret, to getting proficient at your instrument. It's good old-fashioned hard work. Sit in your bedroom and play because you love it. Play and learn songs and think about the craft of songwriting if you want to become a writer at some point. And there's nothing wrong. I always say there's nothing. If you just want to learn a few chords just to sit around the campfire and play songs, that's great. If you want to take it further and learn more technique, music theory, that sort of thing, that's okay too. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever works for you, whatever you want.
Go for it. I mean, why not, dude? Because you never know. They might be that guy that's got what somebody wants, that everybody wants to hear, the majority want to hear. I mean, you never know, dude. And just because you might not make it popular here doesn't mean people in Japan or somewhere in Europe might not like you. You might be nothing here. I had a cousin out in California had a band, and people in America couldn't stand his band, but Japan loved him. He was he was a big rock band in Japan for 4 or 5 years.
Stay true to yourself and create something. You know what I mean? Don't just. You can play other people's songs. You can do covers. That's fine. I play in a cover band too. I also write original music, so that's all fine. But if you really want to do it, and if you even think about it as a possibility of doing it for a lifetime or even as a career, stay true to what you love. Don't worry about when people try and give you all the rules.
Don't give up. If that's what you want, grab it by the balls, slam it on the ground. Chokehold that motherfucker. Don't give up.
I would say play from your heart. And people would always say, "Oh, that's cool. Now take lessons and this and that." I say that's cool. If you want to take a few lessons, take lessons. If lessons bother you, then fine. But always remember to play from your heart what you feel. You can be the biggest, most greatest musician in the fucking world. That doesn't mean you can write a song.
Put the work in.
Put the work in. Yeah.
Yeah. No matter how much it hurts. If you want it and you love it, you're going to do it.
Be humble, keep your head down, keep your nose to the grindstone, and just really work at it, and you'll be just fine.
If you find yourself in a band that's having whatever level of success you're having, be close with your band and be honest with each other. And don't be a pussy if somebody tells you you're doing that wrong, or you're bending that wrong. And that's
helpful. That is helpful.
The thing about it is put the ego and get rid of the ego.
No egos, yes.
Because at the end of the day, if your buddy is telling you that, he just wants to make you better. He just wants to help you and make your unit more solid, regardless if it's how many gauges of string have I went up since we started recording. If I'm not holding the chord right, I change the strings, put in a heavier gauge string, holding it much better. That made me better. That was for me. So, as well as your singer or your drummer or anybody, that would be my advice, is be a unit and be the best band member.
These kids are in high school and junior high. They have never felt more alienated in their life. Their name is not on the back of a fucking jersey, so they don't feel like they're anybody because nobody's shouting their names at fucking events. So they feel like they're lost and they don't have a place in the world. Shit like music introduces them to their people, to where they have a social infrastructure, where they're not fucking alone all the time, where they have people that understand them. That, yeah, they're weird. All musicians, we're all fucking weird. But you're not alone. You have people out there that are just as fucking weird as you are in the right way, and they're damn good people with hearts of gold.
I always say play. You go play in every opportunity you can to play, whether it's marching band or death metal band, like play. I mean, that's, and find other people that play. It's music isn't meant, at least in my world, to sit at home. Music, it's kind of almost a responsibility if you're good at music to use the music to help people or make them feel good.
Play music because you love to play music. Don't go into it because you think you're going to be rich or famous. It's all a joke. It's all a fad. It's the rock and roll lifestyle of the 80s. You're well born past that.
Be prepared to work really hard. Work a lot harder than you think you're going to work. If you think you're going to go and play guitar and pick up chicks and drink free booze, I'm not saying that doesn't happen every once in a while, but there's a lot of work, The same thing with social media. You'll spend hours a day on social media. Just, I took a class on it. Like, when's the best time to post something? When's the opportune time? I mean, simple stuff. How do you narrow your demographic? How do you span it out? I mean, otherwise, you're scattered all over the place. People aren't going to be able to find you. And, you can't be afraid to promote yourself.
Keep working. Don't get frustrated. Don't get angry with each other. Discuss things. And stick with it.
Any additional advice?
To me, music is, like I said, it's an art form. It's something that you're gifted with, and it's something that chances are that just comes second nature to you. Some people have to work harder at it than others, but if you're passionate about it, I would say just do it.
It's fucking great.
Well, there's good musicians anywhere, all over the world. There's good musicians everywhere. You don't have to go anywhere. As you know, you and I both know people from around this area that didn't need to go anywhere and have been on tour all over the country or the world, and they didn't move anywhere. They just made it happen, and that couldn't be an excuse nowadays anyway because of the internet and all that stuff. I mean, you can get your product to anybody in the world from your living room. So
it's a family. Our home roots are extremely important. That's where our biggest bases are. Well, I think that if everybody welcomes each other, then it's like coming home no matter where you play. And I think stations have the opportunity and ability to do that, but some of them are paid not to.
If you haven't gotten out and experienced the talent that's here locally, you need to, because Decatur has always had a huge number of talented people and a good number of talented musicians and bands around town. From the very first time I ever went to see a band when I moved to Decatur back in '78, I was amazed at how good all of them were. And these were just bar bands, you know. They were people that had regular full-time jobs, but they had a passion, and it showed.
It's hard to put into words how much we appreciate the people who do come out to shows and who do support this art of ours, this passion. So thank you to everyone who comes to shows, buys merch, etc.
Yeah, definitely. That's the biggest thing that you can do. If you're not musically inclined or whatever, but you like music, you enjoy music, and you find that band that you like, do your best to support them. Talk about them on social media. Tell your friends about them. Bring your friends to a show.
Buy their shit.
Bring 2 friends to your show, and then make those people bring 2 friends to the next show that you bring them to.
I hear all these people, they bitch and moan about, wow, people don't do this, people don't go out and support and stuff. But I always kind of like, you know, I blame myself. If people aren't at a show, I don't blame the scene. I don't blame the club. I blame myself. What could I have done more? So I think bands need to start being more like, you know, don't like put the time in. If there's something you don't like about a scene, if you're like, there's no metal scene here, start a metal scene. If there's no hip hop scene, start a scene. And a scene is not just your band, it's all the bands. So I think, you know, if anything, the towns need to focus on building the scene. Bunch of bands hanging out. Go see bands. Like, you know, when I'm not playing gigs, I go see bands. That's what I do. So it's just more about really that building that network, making it one big team.
There's a lot of talented people, you know, both in music and creative aspects. There's a lot of talented people here.
Do your thing the way you want to do it. And you know, if everybody don't like it, so what? You're still doing your thing. You're still doing your thing. You're not doing anybody else's thing. You're doing your thing. That's what I would tell them.
If it's something that you're interested in, get your ass out here. We'll take care of you. We will show you there's a lot more to the scene than what everybody tells you. It's legitimately a family.
Ever since I started going to local shows, it's like I've kind of come out of my shell a lot more, and ever since I started coming to Doulos, I definitely notice I'm more confident than I was a year ago.
For every one person that likes you, there's 10 that don't. And I think that one thing that a lot of musicians do is, like, if somebody criticizes you or gives you a comment that isn't the most complimentary, it's like you'll focus on that one thing, you know, instead of all the things that went right. And so I think one of the most important things is, like, to have fun while you're doing what you're doing, because that's what the audience wants to. People want you to do a good job. They want to have fun. They want to, you know, see somebody who's having fun. And so I think that's important too.
I want to say to any musicians out there and anybody that's wanting to become a musician, just do it. Get off your ass, pick up a fucking instrument or a microphone and do it. Just don't worry about being the next big fucking star. Just get out there, make some music, get laughed at, get fucking cheered on, maybe blow your load on a couple pair of tits. I don't know what you're gonna do. I like it.
Just support local music. I mean, it's really important. It's really beneficial. Obviously, I grew up in the local music scene and I wound up playing in instruments, and I've had a ton of great opportunities because of that. And just that wouldn't have happened if I didn't have parents who were also involved in the local music scene. So do that. Don't be afraid to take your kids to family-friendly shows, because they're family-friendly for a reason. They want younger people to come out there, and that's how we get more and more generations of musicians who are going to keep the scene alive.
I will never quit this endeavor one way or another, whether it's, you know, metal or rock or acoustic or whatever, recording one way. My entire life is devoted to music, and it will forever stay that way.
I think the big thing that gets overlooked is it's all synergy. You know, it's not musicians versus venues versus labels versus blah blah blah. I think it's just if everybody got on the same page and realized we're all in it for the same reason, You know, I think most of us are. I think there's some other people that go in for other reasons, but I think most of us are in it for good reasons. You know, as long as we keep our sights on that and continue to work together on that, I think we'll be all right.
If you believe in it, do it. Don't let outside noise dictate what you do. Especially now in the world of social media, everyone thinks that because they can type something that their opinion fucking means something, and it doesn't. I get so sick of seeing all the negativity, and you know, and it's gonna happen. I mean, people put out records, bands you like put out records, and you may not like that record. But to go out of your way and be a fucking dick about it, I'm just so sick of it, you know what I mean? So, and people worry about that stuff. They worry about how many likes they're gonna get, and they worry about, fuck that.
My name is Mike Fernetten.
My name is Ashley Riley.
My name's Eric Watkins.
My name is Brandon Pilger.
I'm Liz.
My name is Matt Huckstep.
I'm Brad Hirsch.
My name is Mikey Shoneman.
My name is Louie Lewis.
My name is Ed.
So I'm Matt.
My name is Gregory Michael Swanson.
My name is Nick.
I'm Josie.
My name's Braun Sheets.
My name's Hugh Reeves.
I'm Chris Driscoll.
I'm Dennis Burton.
I'm Adam Henderson.
I'm Guido Estevez.
Matt Lighty.
My name is Daniel Tomlinson.
My name's Alan Poe.
My name's Madison Lorash.
My name's Billy Fury.
My name's Tim Woods.
Caleb Jepson.
My name's Colton Hobner.
I'm David Sample.
My name is Mitchell Rapp.
Tim Lynn. Matt Carter.
My name's Lee Venata.
Chris Larash. Josh Holland.
My name's Cliff Strangler.
And we are Underground Sound.
You're not just mine.